Welcome to Evolution Business Development. I'm your host, Isis Latham, and Evolution Business Development wants to welcome Courtney Robinson today. Courtney is an empowering speaker, a personal stylist, a women's style mentor with over 7 years of experience. She's dedicated to guiding women leaders, and Courtney seamlessly merges style, fashion, and faith to help them overcome imposter syndrome and align their image with their purpose. Through her weekly devotional, Poise and Promises, Courtney inspires purpose-driven women to embrace their authenticity and step boldly into their divine calling. As a collaborative thought partner, Courtney crafts tailored personal brand solutions that amplify authenticity and boost confidence. We're going to be talking about that confidence today. Despite facing some challenges like brain tumors and a stroke recovery, she turned her experiences into strengths, using fashion and style as powerful tools for self-care and empowerment. With Courtney's guidance, women not only discover their unique style, but also learn to overcome obstacles, embrace their best selves, and make meaningful impact on the world. And so that is what's behind the conversation. Are you hiding in plain sight today? Courtney, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to our conversation just as much today as I was the first time we had our conversation and the second time. And then we started to travel in some similar circles. So it seems like we enjoy some similar experiences. Tell us a little bit about your journey into this new role in your life, because you're actually a corporate person, aren't you? So
I
you're
am.
straddling both sides of that.
I am. I've got a foot in each. You're exactly right. So, my history or experience is mainly in clinical research. This is year 20 for me in clinical research. I've done just about everything. I started in clinical ordering, and have worked my way up into a client oversight manager, working, specifically with key accounts at the company that I'm with. I support a team of nearly 20 project managers who manage clinical supplies for all the major pharmaceutical companies. So if you've ever experienced a clinical trial or known anyone who's been in them, there are test articles, sometimes devices, drugs, you know, things that people take as a part of the clinical trial that has to go through both regulatory and, um, FDA type clearances, things like that. So my team manages the packaging and labeling of those materials to ensure that they're properly packaged and labeled. A very exciting career, but it's not my passion, right?
Yeah.
I've loved like climbing the ladder, but there's always been this thing that's been calling me, which is my ministry for women, working with women in terms of helping them align their inner values with their outward appearance. And so for the past 7 years, I've been doing these things dually, and have really enjoyed the progression of my own personal development and professional development and entrepreneurial development as well. So that's where I am in this season.
Were you an entrepreneur who needed a way to experience that entrepreneurial spirit of yourself? Or were you about the ministry first and realized that you needed to become an entrepreneur in order to bring that ministry out to the world?
So I've always been entrepreneurial spirited, even within my corporate role. Something I'm one of those who's always comes with the ideas and how do we get these implemented, things of that nature. So it's always been a part of my spirit. Um, I think what kind of like tipped it for me is when I went back to school mid-career to get my MBA, and I was in a cohort with about 50 men. 10 of us were women, with 50 people, 10 of us were women. And one of my female colleagues said to me, "So how, you always show up sharp. Like, do you work with a stylist?" Or, she was just inquiring about my own personal style. And at that point, the term or the word personal stylist wasn't really on my radar.
Mhm.
I didn't know anyone who had worked with one. I certainly hadn't. And so that was really probably one of the first seeds that was planted. I'd done other entrepreneurial things before starting my business as a stylist. But that planted a seed. And when I made a transition from North Carolina to Georgia, that presented an opportunity for me to meet, people, get out there. And I thought, what better way to meet like-minded people, especially women, than to start a business? So that was kind of the push behind starting. But yeah, it's always been there. It's always been a part of, who I am and um, how I work. So,
Tell us a little bit more about that. That it would be so easy to gloss over that. You made a big move. You went from North Carolina to Georgia.
mhm.
You wanted to meet people. You probably didn't have a community around you yet. And you decided to follow your entrepreneurial spirit to create friendships. How did that look? Because a lot of people would look at it the opposite and say, oh, I don't know anybody here. I can't do this yet.
Well, I've never met a stranger. I'm generally a friendly person. I love showing myself friendly. And for me, it was just really so I was online. I've always been someone who's embraced, like Facebook and Instagram. And so coming into this city, where my husband was really the only person that I knew, I was like, man, I've got to make some friends. So I really just in the online space started, finding groups. I would go to women's Bible studies, I would go to women's events and different things like that. And that's how I started to meet some of the people that are still currently people that I interface with or are really a part of my life now. One of them was the photographer who did my first brand photo shoot.
Wow.
And so she and I still maintain a relationship. We have a collaboration today where I style her VIP clients, but that was instrumental in terms of us connecting and really aligning and her asking me to support her. That allowed me to start really meeting more people and building my business because we had a similar ideal client. She does photography for, women who entrepreneurs and helping them brand themselves through, their photos and things that they use for all of their, social media materials. So that was a really strong collaboration that meant a lot in terms of helping me get started and meet new people because those women that I styled were in all different types of businesses and industries, and it just really expanded my reach.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was it. Just putting myself out there, going to events, and really more of what we're hopefully starting to get back into, which is that face to face and interaction versus the virtual. So
So tell us about that. You use the online groups to meet people, and then are you attending groups that they then share about, or are you creating your own groups?
So I do not have any groups. I prefer to visit groups and be a part of groups. In what I do and how I manage my clients and my business, I don't think it's conducive to having a group of my own, not at this time anyway. But I just enjoy being in different environments. I really enjoy diversity of thought
Mhm.
and meeting new people. So it's just really important for me to get in spaces that, number one, have the type you alluded to this earlier, the type of people, good people,
Mhm.
well meaning people, people who are thinkers and movers and shakers, just, people who are out here doing the very same thing that I'm doing, which is trying to build a really solid business and leave a legacy. So I'm drawn to people who are enterprising and people who really have deep values, deep-seated values, and that really drives their business and drives how they manage their both personal and professional lives.
Mhm.
So, I'm really fortunate in that I meet good people and they refer me to other good people. So, yeah, the networking is something that I've really started to take more seriously probably about a year ago when I was looking for that shift in my business and I thought, well, you're going to have to get a little bit more serious about networking, with intention and being very purposeful about where you put yourself, the spaces that you're in and the people that you are collaborating with. And when I started to take that more seriously, then I saw a shift in my business as well. So,
It is so much about the attitude and the mindset we bring to it. And when we show up purposeful and driven and conscientious and
mhm,
value based, uh, we start to meet other people like that. And
absolutely.
now that makes me think of, that idea that we're a mirror. Now, I'm going to move, since we're talking about mirror now, I'm going to move into this concept that you're speaking about, that your passion lies in empowering women to embrace their authentic beauty and shine brightly through their personal style and
Mhm.
image. But then you
Right.
go on to say style is not just about what you wear, but also about how you express your inner self to the world. And this is why I didn't make this a women's only type event, that we invited men to come and join us as well. So, talk to us about what that looks like, how we start to express our inner selves through the way that we show up. And it may not
Sure.
always be just clothes, right?
No, yeah, there are so many other dynamics. So in the framework that I'll be talking about in the mastermind, we'll dig deeper, but basically there are four key concepts that I feel are really important to how we show up, right? And so the first is your purpose, right? So really understanding why you're here and what you're here to do. And then there's the passion piece. What are you passionate about? And then how do you reflect that passion and how you show up? Because ultimately that's what magnetizes people to us and draws them into us. Then there's the poise, right? How do you um, present yourself in a way that really aligns with your values and beliefs. I'm really big on that. I feel like for those of us who've taken our business seriously and built them on pillars, a lot of those pillars come from our personal beliefs and values, and that drives how we, run our businesses and the types of clients that we're attracting. And then, of course, there's the presence, right? Like, first impressions are really important, and they're often lasting impressions. And sometimes I feel like people really underestimate the value of that in relation to, making connections with people and showing up in a way that authentically represents who you are. And I think we use that word authentic. It's like one of those buzzwords. But what that really means is how you are showing up in a way that allows other people, to want to really, connect with you.
Mhm.
Um, it's it's just really being true to yourself and true to what those core values are. And so those are the four things that I think are really key, very significant in terms of building a personal brand, building your image, and then also showing up, right? Just showing up. And how we show up is really important. And I can't, emphasize that enough. But it being authentic to who you are is the most important part of it. Like when you show up in a way that isn't authentic to who you are, I think it's awkward for other people as much as it is for you. So it doesn't mean that you have to wear a three-piece suit, or that you have to show up dressed up all the time. It just means that you're very in tune to who you are and how you want to represent or present yourself. So,
When people come to you how do you help them to get in tune with who they really are?
So, one of the things that I just recently developed was a quiz. It's a really simple quiz, but prior to that, it was, a set of, exercises where we went through a little bit of introspection.
Mhm.
I feel like everybody should be able to describe their style, but what I find that is when you ask someone, they kind of stumble a little bit. They can't really tell you, they can't coin it. And so without being able to really like properly say what your style is, what your personal style is, or what you want to represent, it makes it then really hard for you to show up in a way that represents what that style is if you don't know what it is.
Yep.
So we just have to dig in and go deep and figure out what that is and make sure that you understand what it is, you know what to call it, and then you start to make very intentional choices, like when you're investing in, pieces of your wardrobe
Mhm.
or, brand collateral or different things that represent your business and who you are. When you know what to call it, that makes it easier to be consistent
Mm.
in making those choices that support your brand.
When do you first recall understanding your own style?
Very early on, style for me has always been a differentiator. When I decided that I wanted to grow in corporate, I knew that I had to set myself apart from everybody else. And in the environment that I was in, showing up looking sharp was the easiest way to do that because people that kind of just resigned to, oh, I'm just going to go to work and it doesn't really matter. It's just coworkers, that type of thing. And I felt differently. I thought, first of all, for me, it was a faith thing. I felt like, I wanted to really dress as a reflection of Christ. And so, in that, for me, it just meant show up as the best version of yourself. And so when I started making those changes, people started noticing.
Mm.
And then a lot of the other women in my space started showing up differently, right? Because like nobody wants to be outdone. So it's like, okay, well, if she's going to wear that, I'm going to wear that too, type thing. That didn't bother me at all. It made me excited that people would be inspired to want to do something different or to want to show up in a better way. So that's what this is all about. Ultimately, it starts with us. There's this psychology of success that when you look good, you feel good, and you do good. And there's also the ripple effect, right? Because when people feel that way about you, it causes them, to want to show up brighter and shine more as well. So I just
Courtney,
think it's the easiest way, the easiest tool to use to elevate yourself.
I'm smiling because literally the moments before you said the ripple effect, I had written down ripple effect of success and
Absolutely.
kind of encapsulating what you were talking about. Um,
Absolutely.
so as we wrap up our interview, and for anybody who's hearing this and thinks, I want to be a part of the mastermind that Courtney is going to be running today, come and join us. We encourage you, we welcome you to come and be with us on Wednesdays at noon. And tell us, if you would, for those listening today and for those who are listening to the recording, what is your own personal style? How would you describe it?
So I have tried to embrace something that's very classic and timeless in terms of, I just I want people to see me as someone who is progressive, but also someone who is very relatable.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I tend to choose, wardrobe items that are classic and timeless that I'm not buying clothes every week or even every month. I'm trying to invest in things that will really go the distance and really, you know, uh, show up strong over time, right? It's not something that I'm looking to replace all the time. And I have capsule wardrobes and I have things that represent different areas of my life, right? So there's speaking. I'm doing these speaking events and joining groups and doing interviews. And so there are certain items that I reserve for that. There are certain items that I have for corporate. And then there are personal things, right? Like the things that I like to do in my life. And so I think that's what people have to understand is that your wardrobe should really fit your life, right? And so, yeah, classic and timeless are how I would describe my personal style.
I love it. And your wardrobe should fit your life. That's an
Absolutely.
excellent example of making this not about fashion, not about the way we are seen, but the way that we choose to be seen.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Is there a call to action that you have for people, something that you'd like them to know if they want to be in your world, if they want to be around Courtney Robinson? How do they do that? Maybe for the people that just want to be in your world, and then for the people who are feeling motivated and moved to work with you, what would be the next step?
Absolutely. So LinkedIn is where I hang out, and I'd love to connect with you there. That's where you can read my article. I do a newsletter called Executive Style and Success, where I encourage, women leaders in, their executive presence. Um, Also, there, I've just launched the new quiz called the Purpose Palette Persona, which is just a 4-question quiz. It's really simple, but it's all based around those key concepts that I mentioned earlier. That's a great way to get an introduction to how I work and how I support my clients. You take the quiz, then you get some information, and then I encourage you, of course, to do a discovery call so that we can dig deeper in those key elements for you because it's different for everyone, right? And this really, even though I work exclusively with women, this is for men as well. You all have the same, things in terms of values and passion and your presence and poise as well. Nothing really changes from that perspective. So if there are gentlemen who want to take the quiz, it's not limited to just women. I just support women because that's who, my ideal clients are. But yeah, that's a great way to get an introduction to how I support and how I work with clients.
I agree with that. I took the quiz. I need to follow up with a discovery call, but I found the quiz to be thought provoking. And
Mhm.
it asked me questions that were relevant, and not too relevant because I'm a woman, but relevant because I'm thoughtful and because I want to consider other ways to view my decision making.
Mhm.
Well,
Right.
thank you, Courtney. This has been a real pleasure, and I appreciate everything you've brought to us today. And we're going to go ahead and transition over to our mastermind. So thank you for being here with us today, all of you, and
Thank
Evolution
you.
Business Development. Thank you.